Juhayman al-Utaybi is actually depicted as a black bearded man dressed in a traditional white robe that symbolizes the sanctity of a Muslim's faith and piety. However, although he was known as a pious and devout man, Juhayman grew up with extreme thoughts and hatred towards the Saudi government regime that was filled with depravity, especially after Saudi Arabia discovered the first oil in the Dammam region by foreign assistance from the United States. Um, according, according to him, the discovery of the oil was a bid'ah or innovation that was considered a form of disbelief among Muslims and a deviation from pure Islamic values that made Allah as the only God to be worshipped. The reason is that if the discovery of this oil were to have a lasting impact on the state of social civilization, there would be many Muslims who would apostatize from the straight path and further away from remembering Allah and His Messenger. In the end, Juhayman, Juhayman planned to do something that would change the situation forever. Juhayman was a Saudi well-known extremist who, who occupied the Mecca's Grand Mosque along with the other militants who had been censored upon him and took hostage the pilgrims in 1979 as well. At that time, Juhayman and his militants suddenly pulled out the firearms hidden in the coffin at the Holy Mosque after they mingled with the pilgrims who performing the Fajr prayer. Instantly, Juhayman moved to the front of the Kaaba, seized the Imam's microphone, and began delivering a sermon about the appearance of the Mahdi in the last days, proclaimed through his brother in law Muhammad bin Abdullah al Qahtani. Then Juhayman immediately ordered his militants to position themselves as snipers on top of the minarets of the mosque and locked the gates on each side of the Grand Mosque, on the Grand Mosque as well. It doesn't end there. The militants on top of the mosque's minaret shot dead several Saudi policemen and soldiers who tried to storm the Holy Mosque. Juhayman comes from the Utaiba tribe, which is considered influential in the Najd region, central Saudi Arabia. Juhayman was born in the Al-Sajir area, Qasim province, on September 16, 1936. He is the grandson of Sultan bin Bajat al-Utaybi, a figure who is often at odds politically with the rulers of Saudi Arabia. In the Battle of Sabila, which broke out in 1929 AD, his grandfather joined the rebel camp to fight Saudi forces. Unfortunately, the battle was won by the royal Saud dynasty under the leadership of King Abdulaziz. As part of the Utaiba tribe, Juhayman began to be influenced to follow in the footsteps of his predecessors who had fought against the forces of the kingdom of Saud through radical lectures infiltrated by fanatical and extreme Wahhabi doctrine and understanding. Juhayman and his militants managed to occupy and hold hostage pilgrims of the Grand Mosque for 2 consecutive weeks. However, it all ended on December 4, 1979, when the Saudi government gained legitimacy after the broadcast of a fatwa from the ulama that allowed the deployment of military forces to reclaim the Grand Mosque, the Grand Mosque to reclaim the Grand Mosque from the clutches of Juhayman's gang. As a result, Saudi military forces, with the help of anti-terror commandos from France and Pakistan, managed to retake the Grand Mosque in full force. Helicopters and armored combat vehicles began to breach and bombard the positions of Juhayman and his militants from all directions. A firefight at the Grand Mosque was inevitable. Then, Juhayman and his militants, who fled to the basement, were immediately pelted with tear gas. Juhayman's brother-in-law, Muhammad bin Abdullah al-Qahtani, who was the fake Mahdi, was also shot dead in the raid. The militants are mostly killed, but Juhayman and the rest of his militants were caught alive by Saudi government troops. In 1980, in the next 1980, Juhayman and his survived militants were sentenced to death. After the incident's over, there are plenty of radical changes took place in Saudi Arabia, such as the high-scale security at the Grand Mosque, driving prohibition for Saudi women, and the closure of movie theaters and malls by Sharia police officers, and the other radical changes as the impacts resulted from the incident. So that's what I could only say. So sorry if there are mistakes in this video. So anyway, thank you guys for watching my video, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.